Alright, um, so now I'm going to have a little reflection video on the conversations I've had about personal science and luck machine with people. Um, so, personal science seems to be a general hit among these scientists because we see the value in science. And generally, like I talked to Michael Medeo and all these things, and I actually explained the entire drawing apprentice system to him, and what was he most concerned about? Whether that CTM was actually the baseline truth, and how we're going to see about that. Oh, he also thought people weren't rational actors, right? And I said, yeah, maybe they're not rational actors if their cognitive system have certain initial preconditions, right? So maybe we can't properly evaluate human nature right now intrinsically. Maybe there is no real human nature, right? I don't think it's a true concept. I don't think there is any intrinsic human nature. I think I think humans are like water, right? We adapt to whatever situation we're in, to survive and thrive. Um, and so when you have bad initial conditions that reward certain types of behavior that isn't naturally harmonious for humans, then you have systematically irrational actors that are just trying to game the system and they're not acting in their own best interest or the best interest of society, it seems like, right? They're acting in some other best interest. Where is that best interest coming from? We might ask the honeybees. Okay. I was watching a little documentary on honeybees the other day, and I realized why they were all dying, right? So here's this beekeeper, and here's what they do, right? These beekeepers, they don't get it, right? Of course they don't get it. Why are all my bees dying, okay? So you go to local farms, their bees aren't affected, dude. They treat their bees nicely. Their bees have a permanent home. Their bees, they keep it local. They keep it contained. Keep it in the family, basically. So those bees, they love those bees. They're their livelihood, right? And they appreciate them and they care for them and they try to do it in a way that's very sustainable, very, not using harsh chemicals, not using any unsustainable practice, anything that actually negatively impacts the quality of life with these bees. They're actually thinking about the quality of life with these bees, as well as their own quality of life. It's a true reciprocal relationship, and these bees, they don't mind if we take their honey, right? Because they want something to do. They like to make sense of their environment, but they like to do it with their family, and they like to do it in their home, right? That's what they like. So when you start, okay, so that's the local beekeepers, right? That's what they said on this show. So then you have the commercial bee, and then the local beekeepers didn't have any problems with the bee population during this whole bee scare. There's no problems, okay? Local beekeepers are like, dude, we see 0% reduction in bees, zero, literally 0%. The guy's like, wow, that's interesting, right? These other people are complaining about all their bees dying, but you guys aren't having any bees die. That's interesting. But they didn't quite put two and two together, right? So the commercial beekeepers, they do something like this, right? They've got a colony of like 100,000 bees or something like that, but they keep them in a semi-truck, right? And so what do? So they the crops in the United States are like, here's like 5,000 acres of like corn, or like, 50,000 acres of like whatever, I don't know, apples or something, grapes, whatever. So in the U.S., those are like not strategically located, but just happen to be located in different states here and there, depending on the commercial agricultural businesses, because they're very good at particular crops. They optimize their procedures and stuff for particular crops, and then they optimize their yield and things like that. But in order to optimize their yield, they need these honeybees, because that's a critical part of the process. So they've created these enormous, enormous fields, but they need the honeybees to pollinate. So the problem is, honeybees like to have a variety of food, just like we do. And so when they take these honeybees around to the different locations, um, they basically uproot them, right? Uproot them and then kind of ship them around and um, take them all over the U.S., right? Theoretically, take a little road trip with them, which wouldn't be intrinsically bad if it was just here and there, right? If it wasn't the um, entire food cycle, right? But since it is the entire food cycle and it's their entire, sleep cycle, their entire life cycle, all this stuff, what the human is essentially acting as here is like the migrator, right? Like almost like the queen bee is acting. They're giving commands to the hive. They're taking the hive in different places. They're completely taking away the autonomy of the hive completely, right? They say you eat this then, and you live here now. They don't say, the queen doesn't say like, here guys, like do what you need to do to keep me and my kids happy, right? No, that's not what the queen says now. The queen's like, guys, I don't know what we're doing here. I'm sorry, but we need to fortify, right? You guys need to like sacrifice yourselves for me or whatever. Like, we need to do this stuff, this and that. So, anyhow, they're getting thrown off here. The whole creative trajectory monitor is getting thrown off. And so when you reduce the autonomy of these systems and try to act as their creative trajectory monitor when you don't understand the different levels of emergence in an emergent organization, emergent society like these bees are, this bee is like one big consciousness, right? 1,000 bees, whatever, 5,000 bees in a hive. That's like a collective consciousness, a swarm, okay? And this swarm has a collective consciousness that is the sum of like 1,000, 10,000 consciousnesses. And so that queen bee is like the embodiment of that consciousness. She controls it. She's the director, right? She's the director, and they listen to her. But it's not like she barks commands, right? She gives directives. She shows the society where we want to head, because she's like the wise one, and she's the patriarch or matriarch or whatever. But when you start messing around with their intrinsic social structures without taking into account that these are conscious beings and that they do have social dynamics, then they're not very happy, right? So what happens if you take a guy and cut him in half? Stick half of him in location A and half of him in location B. I don't think he's going to be very happy, right? He's not going to be very harmonious. Like half of the people that he has doing the jobs aren't even there. He's got to retrain these folks. And then they're not doing what they love anymore, because now there's critical needs for them to have to solve. So this is like an interstellar, right? When people are like forced to become farmers and they're not happy necessarily, and they're not getting fulfillment in their life necessarily. But it's good for the good of society, right? So imagine this society that got split up in half and all the garbage men were gone, right? And now, in order to rebuild, like half of us have to become garbage men. And we're like, dude, this sucks. I hate this. And then half those people end up like killing themselves or whatever, because they're just so stupid. They were educated like scientists, and here they are being garbage men, not even getting paid for it, having to volunteer their time to be garbage man in the post-apocalyptic society, right? Which is really shitty. So of course there's going to be general depression, general non-functionality in the group, and the hive's going to fall apart. So these commercial beekeepers see it's something like 17% reduction in bees in a year. Dude, this is like, what if 17% of our population died? That's insane. Right? What do we got, like around 300 million or something? 17% died, that would be like 60 million people in our little group, right? Or in our, 17% in a colony is super serious. So, so that's one of the reasons that these guys are dying, right? And okay, whatever. I was talking with these other people, right? Anything else? No, nothing else.